am Alexander B. Stevens. This is the brand new up-and-coming podcast entitled, What Is He Thinking? The sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes politically incorrect, but always sincere and truthful podcast for the benefit of women from the perspective of men. What's going on? This is Alexander Stevens back at it again here in episode 2 of the podcast. Today, I wanted to discuss the 4 different levels of attraction that a man can have for a woman. Before I get into those levels, I think we need to define attraction. For our purposes here on this podcast, I'm going to simplify attraction to 3 components: physical chemistry, mental chemistry, and pure aesthetics, aka looks. Depending on the person and depending on their stage in life will determine which one of the 3 is the largest slice of the pie and which is the skinniest slice. But because describing physical chemistry and mental chemistry is such a personal thing and varies from person to person, from henceforth I will be focusing on the aesthetic part of attraction, aka looks. Not because it's the most important thing or all that matters, just because it's the easiest to describe and it's less personal and is a more universal thing to discuss. Now, if you ever have spoken to an image consultant or a stylist or anyone that works in the beauty industry, they will tell you something that might disagree with a common saying that we all have said or we all have heard growing up. That common saying being that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What a professional in this industry will say is that beauty is both objective and subjective. There's objective beauty and subjective beauty. The subjective part depends on the person's personal preference. It depends on the family that person grew up in, the society, the culture that person grew up in, and the time period that person grew up in or is a part of. If you think back, look at old European artwork from 500, 600 years ago, you'll notice that most of the works of art are of pale, chubby individuals. Why? Because at that time, the pale, chubby look was thought of as the most attractive. That was their culture at that time. Why was pale and chubby thought of as attractive? Because in order to be chubby, you had to come from money, or you had to be smart enough to work a job that paid you enough money so that you could eat multiple meals a day and dessert. Evidence of your intelligence or evidence of your high class influenced people and made them more attracted to you than just your raw, objective physical beauty would mandate. Furthermore, if a person in today's society is raised in a certain part of the country and their family members are, all short, for example, then when they leave home, they're going to be less impressed by tall men and more accepting of short men in their dating life. If their older brothers and father were all kind of chubby, they won't realize this, but subconsciously when they get older, they'll be more accepting of the husky man than the woman who grew up around nothing but anorexic dudes. So these are all the things that come together that formulate the subjective aspect of beauty. I've already mentioned personal preference, but outside of the personal preference, these are all the things that come together that formulate that subjective form of beauty. Now, the objective form of beauty, according to beauty professionals, to simplify it, it would be these 2 things: symmetry and the golden ratio. Symmetry and the golden ratio. The golden ratio is 1.618, and it comes from the Fibonacci sequence. That is too nerdy for us to discuss here, but 1.618 is the golden ratio. Let's just call it 1.6. And symmetry is self-explanatory. So objective beauty would indicate that a person who has symmetrical features from left to right is more beautiful than a person who has asymmetrical features. So try this out. Take a selfie of you looking dead straight at the camera. Upload that picture to a photo editing software app. Take half that picture and reflect it over to the other half. Now look at that reflected picture and compare it to your actual picture. The closer those 2 pictures look alike, most likely the more attractive the average person thinks you are. The less your mirror reflection looks like your actual face, the less people compliment you on your looks. So that's symmetry. Of course, you can apply it to leg length, arm length, but the most notable location is face and facial features, head shape. Now the golden ratio 1.6. 1.6 is the ratio that applies to multiple parts of the body that's supposed to give us the proper ideal proportion when it comes to objective beauty. Your head is supposed to be 1.6 times longer than it is wide. From your belly button to the bottom of your feet, it's supposed to be 1.6 times longer than your body from your belly button to your head. The distance from the bottom of your knee to your ankle is supposed to be 1.6 times longer than the length of your foot. And there are many other proportional 1.6 to 1 ratio locations on the body. For example, on a man's body, studies have shown that women have the highest level of attraction for men whose shoulders are 1.6 times wider than their waist is. And you guys, I'm pretty sure you all have heard the old adage about the 36, 24, 36 woman. Well, that's a 1.5 ratio, which is pretty close to the golden ratio. To be more precise, and to hit the golden ratio closer to on the head, the actual measurements would be 38.5, 24, 38.5. But 36, 24, 36 rolls off the tongue just a little bit better. Anyway, those are examples of objective beauty, according to beauty professionals across the world. Now, a lot of items underneath the objective beauty category are genetic things that you do not have much control over. You have no control over the size or shape of your head or how big your feet get. But there are some things that you do have control over, like your waist size. So, of course, working out, not just cardio, but resistance training can definitely help out with this. And with other things, if you talk to a professional image consultant or a stylist, they can put you in the right type of clothes, or you can have the clothes that you already have tailored in a manner so that you can disguise any ratio issues that you might have elsewhere in your body. For example, if you have short, stubby leg, you can wear your pants in such a manner, or you can have your dresses tailored at a certain location in order to give the illusion that you have longer 1.6 legs instead of 1.3 legs. If you have a round head, you can wear your hair in certain styles in order to give the illusion that you have the proper ratio when it comes to the elongation of your head, etc., etc. There are things that you can do to combat genetics and increase your aesthetic. Since we have already talked about objective beauty from the professional standpoint, I wanted to transition to some empirical information about beauty and attraction, and also throw in some anecdotal thoughts on beauty and attraction. Imperially, we live in the swipe left, swipe right online dating culture that typically focuses first on looks before there's any depth to be found. And there have been a handful of studies conducted over the last 5 years that would indicate that when women are judging men based off their pictures and a couple words on a profile, they only swipe right on approximately 20% of all profiles they come across. On the other hand, when men are evaluating women on their pictures and a couple words on a profile, they tend to swipe right 3/5 of the time. So to me, that indicates that the average guy is way more attractive to women than the average woman is to man. The average guy is more accepting of a wide variety or a wider range of different levels of beauty than the average woman is. So as a woman, I would take solace in that information. Now here comes the anecdotal part, the subjective beauty part. In my opinion, I feel like most guys appreciate the natural, God-given female form as is. In my opinion, most guys do not need a bunch of makeup or crazy hairstyles or anything over the top to appreciate the beauty of a woman. As long as that woman is in shape, well-groomed, and trying, the overwhelming majority of men have some level of attraction toward. But I would just like to caution women on a few things. One, yes, it's your body, you're a woman, you're grown, you can do what you want to. But there are certain things you can do or not do, looks-wise, that will limit your potential pool of suitors. One, I've noticed that men tend not to marry women that have more tattoos than they do, or larger tattoos than they do. I've noticed that men tend not to take women seriously that have crazy hairstyles. I've noticed that in general, most men tend to prefer longer hair. If you have shorter hair, you need to be an 8, 9, or a 10. If you're an average looking woman or just a kind of cute woman, the safest bet is to have a long hairstyle. I've noticed that men tend not to take seriously or marry women that have more piercings than they do. And when I say more, I mean more extravagant piercings than they do. If you have the bull nose ring and you have 5 piercings in your ear and random body parts pierced, you pretty much eliminate the guy that only has a stud ear ring piercing or the guy that has no piercings at all. And you limit yourself to men that have a bunch of piercings. When it comes to artificial enhancements, such as eyelashes or weave or hair extensions, the more realistic it looks, the better. Anytime you do something artificial or fake, men want it to look realistic. Men want to be fooled. Men want to think that it's real. But if you overdo it to a point that we obviously know that it's not real, then you're not doing yourself any favors. Same goes for makeup. The more natural, the less you can put on and still have that crispy, smooth look, the better. In regards to surgery, pretty much the same principle applies. When it comes to men taking you seriously or men potentially wanting to put a ring on it, any kind of surgical enhancements you have need to be realistic and not clownish. You don't need stripper butt implants. A man doesn't want to see G-cup breast implants. Any type of surgery or enhancement needs to be subtle and realistic because, like I started off this segment, men love the natural female form as long as it's in shape and well kept. So, like I said earlier, it's your body, your choice, your life. You can do what you want to. And of course, you could tell me, hey, if a guy doesn't like me for doing XYZ and I want to do XYZ, then I don't want to be with that guy anyway. Yeah, you can say that, but I feel like the wisest decision would be to keep your options as open as much as possible in order to increase your chance at finding the right guy. It would be a shame to make a whole bunch of permanent or semi-permanent beauty-related decisions in your early 20s and have that negatively affect your love life into your 30s and 40s. All right, now let's get to this list. The 4 levels of attraction. Level.
All right. That's all you're going to get right now on this video. If you want to listen to the continuation and the conclusion of this episode, or if you want to listen to one of my many other interesting and educational podcast episodes, I'm going to need you to open up your favorite podcast hosting platform and search What Ozzy He Thinking. Look for the podcast by the same name as this one, and you can enjoy the rest of the episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, Amazon Music. You can find the podcast everywhere. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for new topics for me to discuss, please shoot me an email at whatozzyhethinking@gmail.com. And never forget, I'm not here to tickle your ear. My only goal is to tell you what you need to know.